In Memphis, reputation can mean everything. But in 2020, one split-second decision meant something else: tragedy. A man with no gang ties was driving through the city when gunfire suddenly erupted. Within moments, he was left paralyzed for life. Authorities later linked the shooting to Lil Hank, a close associate of rising rap star Pooh Shiesty. Investigators say the target was never supposed to be him. It was a case of mistaken identity, the wrong car at the wrong time. And that single mistake led to an 18-year prison sentence, a permanently shattered family, and questions about how far loyalty can really go. Tonight, we're breaking down how street politics, fear, and reputation collided, and why the consequences are still echoing today. Let's start with how it all began. Lil Hank wasn't viewed as just a random individual from the neighborhood. He was closely aligned with Chopper Gang from early on. According to local accounts, he and Pooh Shiesty grew up around South Memphis, including areas like Cane Creek Apartments, where life could be challenging and opportunities were limited. Many young people in that environment felt pressured to protect themselves and their circles at all costs. Pooh Shiesty's rise in music was fast. One viral moment reportedly pulled in millions of views and elevated his profile beyond Memphis. During that transition from local rapper to national name, Hank was said to still be in the city, maintaining relationships and handling tensions that came with growing visibility. Supporters describe that as loyalty. Critics see it as escalation. To understand the dynamic, you also have to understand Memphis street culture. The city has long struggled with violence in certain neighborhoods, and disputes can escalate quickly. While Memphis is known for its music history and Southern hospitality, there are also areas where residents have dealt with crime and instability for years. In some communities, people feel they must either defend themselves or risk becoming targets. That mindset can shape decisions in dangerous ways. Memphis has a mix of nationally recognized gangs and smaller local crews. Chopper Gang was often described as more of a tight-knit circle rather than a traditional national set. That structure made them less tied to outside politics, but also harder to predict. Reports suggest that Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, Lil Hank, and others formed strong ties during the mid-2000s. Pooh eventually became the most visible face of the group as his rap career developed. His father was already known in Memphis music circles, which brought both recognition and added scrutiny. Visibility can open doors, but it can also bring pressure. Every rising artist needs support, and in this case, Hank was often portrayed as someone who handled conflicts on the ground, while Pooh focused on music. That division of roles created a clear dynamic, one building a public career, the other maintaining street credibility. As Pooh's songs gained traction, including collaborations with major artists, references to loyalty and retaliation became part of the lyrical image. It's important to note that rap lyrics often reflect perspective, emotion, or storytelling, not necessarily confirmed events. However, in Memphis, certain lines were widely interpreted as connected to real tensions between groups. There has long been discussion about a divide between different parts of the city, including South Memphis and other neighborhoods. Rivalries between crews, including groups like EBG, were frequently referenced in music and online exchanges. When Back in Blood gained national attention, many listeners believed the song reflected ongoing disputes. Whether entirely literal or partly performative, the impact was real. It intensified attention from fans, rivals, and law enforcement. As Chopper Gang's profile grew, so did outside scrutiny. Increased visibility often brings police attention, especially when public feuds are amplified through music and social media. That environment created added pressure on everyone involved, including Hank, who was reportedly still active in the city. Now we reach the turning point. In 2020, tensions in Memphis were high. Multiple crews were on edge, and paranoia can build quickly when people believe they're being watched or targeted. According to court records, Hank was driving through the city when he saw a red Infiniti. Investigators say he believed the vehicle was connected to rivals. In situations fueled by fear and assumption, split-second decisions can carry lifelong consequences. Authorities allege that Hank opened fire on the vehicle, believing it posed a threat, but the person inside was not involved in any dispute. An innocent civilian was critically injured and left paralyzed.
That single misjudgment changed everything. What may have been seen internally as defending a reputation turned into a criminal case with life-altering impact. Hank was eventually sentenced to 18 years in prison for his role in the shooting. This case highlights how loyalty, street identity, and perceived threats can spiral into tragedy. What begins as defending a name or a block can end with irreversible harm to people who had nothing to do with the conflict. And that's the deeper story here. Not just about music shoutouts or reputations, but about how quickly things escalate when tension, fear, and pride collide in an already volatile environment.
Without hesitation, this individual began firing shots, apparently believing he was protecting his crew and sending a message to rivals. In his mind, it may have felt like just another day of proving loyalty to Chopper Gang. He likely thought he was neutralizing a threat and earning respect, but in a tragic twist, it wasn't a rival at all. It was reportedly a civilian, someone simply driving through the area whose vehicle resembled one associated with an opposing group. The innocent man was struck multiple times and was ultimately paralyzed from the waist down. His life changed within seconds because of what authorities described as a case of mistaken identity. According to court records, the victim had no known connection to any gang activity. He was a working man, focused on providing for his family, unaware that driving a similar-looking car in that neighborhood could lead to such devastating consequences. In an instant, he went from being fully independent to someone requiring long-term medical care and assistance. After the shooting, instead of stopping, Hank allegedly attempted to flee the scene. While trying to escape, he lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a pole. The collision disabled his car and left him at the scene. Witnesses contacted law enforcement, and officers reportedly found him inside the damaged vehicle. Investigators cited shell casings, witness accounts, and his presence at the location as key evidence in the case. That crash ultimately sealed his fate. Authorities connected him to the shooting, and he was later convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison for attempted murder. Meanwhile, the victim was left permanently paralyzed. Prosecutors described the case as straightforward, supported by physical evidence, testimony, and context surrounding ongoing gang tensions in Memphis. The defense presented arguments, but the evidence proved difficult to overcome. During trial proceedings, details emerged about the long-term impact on the victim. Beyond paralysis, he now faces ongoing medical expenses, rehabilitation, and emotional trauma. His family has had to restructure their lives around his care. The human cost of that moment became clear in the courtroom. When delivering the sentence, the judge reportedly emphasized the senseless nature of the crime, noting that the victim was not involved in any gang dispute. For Hank's family, the outcome was devastating as well. They lost a son and brother to the prison system, while also confronting the reality that another family's life had been permanently altered. The consequences extended far beyond the individuals directly involved. One might expect that an 18-year sentence would lead to reflection and remorse. However, according to various reports and social media posts at the time, Hank appeared to maintain the same mindset even after incarceration. Posts attributed to him suggested that rivals were fortunate he was behind bars. Notably, there was little public acknowledgement of the innocent victim in those messages. While social media can sometimes amplify bravado, the tone reinforced the perception that he viewed his sentence as a setback rather than a consequence. Despite the conviction, Pooh Shiesty has continued to reference Hank in his music, signaling loyalty. In street culture, that kind of loyalty is often seen as unwavering, standing by someone regardless of circumstances. These mentions keep Hank's name alive and reflect the bond within Chopper Gang. At the same time, they highlight the complicated reality of loyalty when serious consequences are involved. Law enforcement officials have pointed to cases like this as examples of why gang-related violence receives heightened attention. When an uninvolved civilian becomes the victim, it strengthens calls for stricter enforcement and harsher penalties.
Among young people in Memphis, reactions have been mixed. Some see the 18-year sentence as proof that gang involvement carries life-altering risks. Others focus on the loyalty aspect and interpret it differently. But stepping back from the street narrative, the broader picture is sobering. An innocent man is paralyzed for life. His family faces emotional and financial strain that may never fully disappear. Hank is serving nearly 2 decades in prison, missing critical years of his life. And Chopper Gang lost a close associate to a preventable mistake. The culture that sometimes glorifies proving loyalty through violence often overlooks the long-term consequences. Short-term respect can come at the expense of freedom, stability, and entire futures. In this case, a split-second decision reshaped multiple lives permanently. Lil Hank's story stands as both a reflection of loyalty and a cautionary example of recklessness. He was willing to risk everything for his crew, and ultimately he did. Meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty went on to secure major industry deals and achieve commercial success, reportedly selling around 60,000 units in his first week and becoming a prominent name in rap. The contrast is difficult to ignore. While one career advanced, another life stalled behind prison walls. The irony speaks for itself. Loyalty may earn recognition in music, but the legal consequences remain very real. In the end, the streets may remember Lil Hank as a loyal associate, but the man in the wheelchair will remember him as the person responsible for changing his life forever due to mistaken identity. That is the lasting impact. The music can make these stories sound intense or even heroic. The reality, however, includes lengthy prison sentences and irreversible harm to innocent people. What are your thoughts on this situation? Do you see it as loyalty taken too far, or simply reckless decision-making? Share your perspective below, and stay tuned for more in-depth discussions on the real stories behind the music. Stay safe.